Hi, I'm D Betts, and welcome to Pen and Plume. This episode, I wanted to give something special considering everything that's going on in the nation, actually in the world right now. And with a bit of technical difficulties, I had to do something with video. I felt I would be remiss if I did not use my platform to use my voice and express how I'm feeling during this time. So I want to share with you all my Plume piece, Force of Nature. All my life, assumed aggressive on sight. Brown skin, black power. A ticking bomb, let's banish the bondage. Empty clips, uniform cowards. Claiming you scared, take your ass to church. Dark skin, deep as dirt. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. An esoteric existence. Black girl magic plus black boy joy ends an era of systemic decoy. We fine, we fresh. Our food for the soul. But they fear if we fight, this whole nation will fold. Give me liberty or give me death. A grand gesture back then, but they want us to forget. Garvey told us, great principles, great ideals know no nationality. Our grand minds and strong backs galvanized America the Great. My heart is heavy due to the harm of the unheard. The Holocaust we have to hate. But 400 years of our horrible history and present is somehow erased. And they insist it was in the past. But daily ripples of injustice isolate us, indoctrinate us for incarceration, instant adrenaline from incited frustration, global inspiration from our innovation. In love with our culture, but indifferent as we suffer. How do you justify the jeers and jabs on the daily? How do you enjoy the juice from today's strange fruit? We are kings and connected kinfolk, not who their clansestors told us who to be. You're living a lie if you believe you're exempt. Lose the division and love your brethren. Our melanin is not a weapon, it's magical. Although the media tells one side of the story, make no mistake, a revolution is in molding. No more Mr. Nice Guy, a collective night is near. No one can give you freedom, Malcolm X made that clear. Oh, yes we can, we shall overcome, an ode to oppression's end. Organize. In the rear view of life, objects are closer than they appear. No justice, no peace. We can't pretend our protection will ever come from police. On this quest, there can be no question about black intersections nor fear. We all we got, kings, queens, or queer. Racism has run rampant. It restricts our rise to greatness. Systems in place to starve our growth. The shrill of sirens shock our systems. White supremacy's dagger and cloak. The revolution will not be fully televised. It will be live, but tomorrow will take time. It might be tweeted and snapped, posted and tagged. Under the name of God, usurpers use this land. Understand that unless we all unite, progress will be idle. In vain, the very fruits of our own labor. With words now vacant, action is the vector for change. We wish you well, allies in the fight. Wash your hands of your neighbors, loved ones, or friends' plight. Where do you really walk when the water comes your way? My people, we have that X factor. Black excellence will carry us far. Extend your hands wide and exercise our God-given rights. You are the key, Black Gold. Many watch over us. God, Great Granny, Pop Pop, Yemaya, Shango. We're in our zone, but we can't do it alone. Go forth in a manner so zealous till the isms quake with fear, and a new seat and silverware is formed. For us, by us. Again, that piece was called Force of Nature. I wrote this last week because writing is the best way for me to get feelings out. I didn't know what to say or how to say it, so I just started writing, and it came out the way it did. It mostly was sparked because of a lot of anti-blackness that I was seeing from people I thought were friends and family on Facebook. You know, people who like to borrow from the culture and use the N-word here and there, but when you see injustice, they turn a blind eye. And I was just like, wow, that's so crazy. And also just hearing people constantly talking about how, well, can't they do something? Can it be more peaceful? Why are they doing it this way? Yes, people are affected by this in all types of ways, but those companies, they have insurance. They're billion-dollar companies. But also, too, when people are unheard for too long, there's outrage. Like, you can't constantly stab somebody and tell them how to say ouch or when to say ouch, you know? For those who say a few looters ruins the big movement, what do you think a few bad cops does for the entire force. There's just some industries that can't afford to have bad apples. Like, think about the aviation industry. You can't have a few bad apple pilots who don't know how to land right. Also, every movement for equal rights started with some type of unrest and rising. If you don't make noise, you don't get things done. And history has proven that time and time again. Think about the Boston Tea Party back then. They did that to protest the Tax Act. And with that, the American Revolution started. Freedom of religion. And America that we have here. Women's suffrage, the right to vote. They protested to stop the whole notion of a woman's place, forced feeding in prison, things like that. And what came from that was the 19th Amendment, the women's right to vote. It started internationally as well. The Chicano movement, or El Movimiento, that started with the Pachucos in 1940s, the Zoot Suit riots. Check it out. And with that, led by Cesar Chavez, restoration of land grants, farm workers' rights, enhanced education. That started in the 60s. And the 60s was a big time for multiple civil rights movements for many marginalized groups. The Asian American movement, they worked to remove the term of yellow peril and systematic racism that was going on with them. Of course, you hear a lot of MLK and Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, all of them, who fought against Jim Crow and segregation in the South, and just basic human rights for Black people, people of color, because a lot of these groups work together. And even after MLK's assassination, the Civil Rights Act of 1968 was started. So after 6 days of violent riots, the Fair Housing Act was started. And what that is basically it was a federally backed law to end housing discrimination, redlining, all that. And over time, those included in those protections were rights for race. It was religion, people for freedom of religion, natural origin, people with disabilities, pregnant women. All those people fell under that one umbrella. And lastly, even the Stonewall riots, 1969. There's a series of demonstrations against the police raid at the Stonewall Inn, which happened to be a gay bar where people were going and living their life. Police went in there and arresting people back then for that. They fought back, and now there's different LGBTQ rights for people. I mean, we all human. We should be able to have the right to love who we want and be who we want to be. And so I wanted to kind of just give a little bit of inspiration around what sparked me doing this and letting people know, like, hey, there's going to be some unrest and there's going to be different forms of protest that happen. But think about it. This is happening globally, and there's some change happening. And if you really open your eyes and think about it, these things will help everybody underneath the changes. And so then next, I'll pull out a few lines from A Force of Nature and kind of give you some insight. So one of the lines I said, an esoteric existence, black girl magic plus black boy joy ends an era of systemic decoy. Man, when we work together, we accomplish big things. An esoteric existence. Esoteric it means it's mysterious. People don't understand. A lot of people love Black people and they love our culture. You heard the term black girl magic and black boy joy. When we bring that together and start moving in the right direction with it, we can end this era of systemic decoy. That's, things put in place to keep us from assuming wealth, and conditions that are now that started from things from before, a lot of systemic racism. Another stanza, global inspiration from our innovation, in love with our culture but indifferent as we suffer. How do you justify the jeers and jabs on the daily? How do you enjoy the juice from today's strange fruit? A lot of people are inspired by hip-hop culture. Even if you think about the TikTok app, it's a Chinese app, but the majority of it is Black music. Just be what it is. But they allow a lot of racism to happen on that app, which is kind of crazy. And how do you justify the jeers and jabs on the daily? A lot of people turn a blind eye to what's going on. Or you hear people say, oh, well, all lives matter. Okay, all lives matter cannot happen unless Black lives matter. How do you enjoy the juice from today's strange fruit? Strange Fruit was a song that was sung by Billie Holiday, talking about seeing the hanging bodies of Black people lynched and how it was a spectacle. But think about it. Today's strange fruit rots on the ground after being shot and it bleeds. And for you to turn a blind eye to that, you must be enjoying the juice from that. Another stanza. On this quest, there can be no question about Black intersections nor fear. We all we got, kings, queens, or queer. If you're fighting for black lives, that got to be all of them. Okay, I know a lot of people stand behind, oh, religion and God says this and that. Forget all that. Okay, people of the same skin as you, same hue as you. You have to support them all. You can't be for Black Lives Matter if you're only thinking about cisgendered black lives. It don't work that way. We all in this together. We all we got. Next stanza. We wish you well, allies in the fight. Wash your hands of your neighbors, loved ones, or friends' plight. Where do you really walk when the water comes your way? We have allies, people who want to march alongside us and fight, but they need to listen and be secondary. We would get much more done if those allies in the fight with us would listen and follow what we want more. There's also some so-called allies with their own agenda who deface property and spray BLM everywhere, and they don't understand that we get blamed for that at the end of the day. And the movement goes from meaningful to marketable to any news outlet who wants to put their own spin on it. The line washing your hands of your neighbors, loved ones, and friends' plight. You can't keep quiet. Ask your black friends, how are we doing? Check your own privilege and people and be aware of microaggressions. That's trying to tell people how they should protest or what isn't allowed, or even non-black people of color. Check your language and the excuses and actions that make us feel just as oppressed as the system already does. Wash your hands of that. And where do you really walk when the water comes your way? You can talk it, but when it's time, where are you when it's time to help us? That goes for anyone who loves a black person, lays with a black person, or is related to a black person. And the last stanza I'll talk about, you are the key, black gold. Many watch over us. God, great granny, pop, Yemaya, Shango. When I mention that, it means it has to start and end with us. We got to make the noise and fight to be heard and get or create that seat at the table, even if it's our own table. And everyone has their own way of showcasing their voice. We're black gold. Everybody seems to want black bodies, but don't want black bodies, you know? We got people watching over us in this fight. Whether it's God, your ancestors, Yemaya, Shango, those are Orishas or deities in the Yoruba culture from Nigeria. In the piece, that symbolize those who may have a direct connection to the motherland of Africa. So those are my thoughts I wanted to share about this piece. Thank you again for joining me, and we'll be back to resuming our regular Pen and Plume, a podcast for creative writers and imagination seekers soon enough. Please leave comments and share this where you can. And remember, pick up your pen and make it fancy with your plume. I'm D Betts. Thank you again and keep up the good fight. Peace.